Intense heat is produced when burning acetylene from this cylinder is mixed with oxygen from this cylinder. The red hose is attached to the acetylene regulator, and the green hose to the oxygen regulator. Special wrenches fit various connections on the welding and cutting equipment. The regulators have two important functions. First, to reduce the high pressure in the cylinders to the much lower pressure used in welding. And secondly, to constantly maintain this lower pressure without further adjustments. By adding suitable attachments to the blowpipe, metal can either be joined or separated. This welding tip is used to join metal. The process is called fusion welding and occurs when metals melt, flow together, and solidify. Welding tips are available in various sizes. This tip, with a small opening, is best for thinnest metals. The heavier the metal, the larger the tip opening. The cutting attachment, on the other hand, is used to separate metal with an appropriate cutting or burning tip. The handle on the cutting blowpipe is fitted with two inlet connections for the oxygen and acetylene gases. The valves control the amount of gas passing through each inlet. When opened, these valves release the appropriate amount and mixture of gases. A cutting nozzle has 5 openings. Oxygen is fed through the center hole to cut the metal after it is heated by the oxy acetylene flames from the surrounding holes. When the metal is red hot, a jet of oxygen is released by pressing this lever. When welding, always wear goggles or a face shield and fire-resistant gloves. Before opening the cylinder valves, make sure the adjusting mechanisms are screwed out until loose. First, open the valve on the acetylene cylinder with a quarter turn. Next, open the valve on the oxygen cylinder all the way out. Turn the handle on both regulators until each gauge registers 5 pounds pressure. First the acetylene, then oxygen. The exact pressure will vary with the type of welding torch you use. Next, open the acetylene torch valve slightly. Light it immediately. Adjust the valve until there is a fairly clean, carbon-free yellow flame. Then open the oxygen valve and adjust it to the correct flame. This correct flame has 3 parts. The largest part is the envelope. The envelope contains the feather and the cone. When the feather and cone coincide, the flame is called neutral. Adjust the valves until you get a full outer flame and a sharp pale blue inner cone. The tip of this inner cone is the point of the highest temperature. When welding is over for the day, close both cylinder valves. The acetylene valve first, then the oxygen valve. Next, open the acetylene torch valve to drain the hose and the regulator. Loosen the handle on the acetylene regulator, then close the acetylene torch valve. Follow the same steps in the same order with the oxygen apparatus. The The first step in learning to weld is to get the feel of the welding torch. Before starting, make some practice welds on a piece of 16-gauge metal. Light the torch and adjust the valves to the proper welding flame. Hold the torch a short distance above the metal. The cone of the neutral flame should be slightly above and never touching the metal. It must point in the same direction that you're going to weld. The metal has now melted to form a puddle. By moving the flame slowly and steadily, the melting action in front and the cooling action behind makes this puddle appear to move. This is called running a bead. An oval or U-shaped motion is often used. Move the torch slowly forward in a series of overlapping ovals. Make sure that the forward motion and the weaving motion are even, so that the bead is smooth and regular. Don't hold the torch too long in one spot. It will burn a hole in the metal. Remember not to allow the cone to touch the puddle. It is sometimes necessary to use a welding rod to reinforce the metal. After the puddle starts to form, add the welding rod to the middle of it. Direct the flame on the metal, but not on the end of the rod. Don't melt the rod so that it drips. Keep it in the puddle as long as reinforcement is needed. The flame should be kept a proper distance away from the metal. If it is too close, small blowholes form and the torch might backfire or pop. However, if it's too far away, there won't be sufficient heat. Also, never put the torch right into the puddle. Don't hold the torch in one spot too long. Keep it in motion. The rate of travel depends on the rate of melting. Brazing is really hard soldering. It is used to repair metal and to make joints almost as strong as welded joints without melting the metal as in fusion welding. Two essential brazing ingredients are a brazing rod and a commercial flux. Brazing rods are already coated with flux. The pieces to be joined together must be thoroughly cleaned with emery cloth. Place the two pieces together and hold them securely in position. Heat the metal at the point where the braze weld is to begin. Flux is also used to clean the area to be brazed. Apply it directly or carry it on the rod. Heat the rod slightly and stick it into the flux that will be applied to the joint when the metal is heated to a bright red. To prevent excess oxides from reforming on the metal, a flame with a slight feather is needed. A carbonizing flame is often used. The flux will clean the oxide from the brazing area and dissolve the oxides that are formed. Hold the end of the rod just ahead of the torch. Never apply extreme heat directly to the rod. Never overheat the metal, but make sure it is never allowed to cool while applying the bronze. Allow the weld to cool, then polish it to get a clean finish. Insert the correct size of cutting nozzle into the torch. Its size will be determined by the metal's thickness. Next, adjust the acetylene and oxygen regulators to the correct pressure for cutting. Remember to wear goggles or a face shield. And don't forget fire-resistant gloves. Light the torch. The rear oxygen valve must be opened fully. Adjust the preheating flame to neutral with the front oxygen valve. Hold the handle in one hand for a firm control of the cutting oxygen lever. The other hand should be used to steady the torch. A comfortable but steady grip is essential for accurate cutting. Hold the torch perpendicular to the work. The inner cones of the flame should be just slightly above the cutting surface. Wait until this spot is red hot. Then slowly press down the cutting oxygen lever all the way. A shower of spark from under the metal indicates that the cutting has started. Apply the same pressure during the entire cut. If properly cut, the waste will drop off and the edge will be clean.